Rain slammed Lagos like a punishment from heaven. Inside the marble halls of the Nwosu mansion, thunder cracked as billionaire Chike Nwosu pushed open the gate home early, unannounced. He planned to surprise his wife, maybe take her to dinner. But something was wrong. The house was too quiet, the TV dead, no music, only silence heavy as smoke. Then his housemaid, Amara, trembling eyes wide, whispered, "Sir, please, shut up, don't say a word." Her voice wasn't fear, it was warning. And in that instant, Chike knew something or someone was inside his bedroom. Every step he took up the corridor felt like walking into a grave. Behind the door, a muffled laugh. Two voices. One of them, unmistakably, his brother's. The handle turned. The truth waited on the other side, ready to burn everything he called family. Before we dive into this storm of betrayal and redemption, tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it there? Drop your city and time in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more heart-gripping African stories. Rain poured across Lagos as if heaven itself had broken its heart. The storm mirrored the chaos about to unfold in Chike Nwosu's world. He was the kind of man people called the Iron Gentleman, a self-made billionaire who built his empire brick by brick, sweat by sweat. His name opened doors, his presence silenced rooms. Yet that evening, when he unlocked his own gate, it wasn't power that followed him inside. It was silence, cold and watching. Chike's black SUV rolled to a stop in the driveway. Normally by this time the house would glow soft jazz from the speakers, the scent of jollof rice drifting from the kitchen, and his wife Ngozi greeting him with a practiced smile. But today the lights flickered dimly and the marble floor reflected nothing but emptiness. He removed his jacket, hung it by the door, and called out Ngozi. No answer. He frowned. Even the air felt different, tense, charged like before lightning strikes. He called again, louder this time. Ngozi. Then from the kitchen corridor a shadow moved. Amara the housemaid appeared barefoot, a wet rag in her hand, her face pale with something deeper than fear. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Sir, please don't speak. Don't make a sound." Chike blinked, not understanding. "Amara, what?" "Shh," she hissed, glancing toward the hallway that led to the master bedroom. Her eyes glistened like someone who had seen something she wished she could unsee. That warning, quiet, desperate, chilled Chike more than thunder ever could. His heart quickened not from fear but from instinct. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. He took one slow step toward the corridor. The air thickened. The scent of perfume lingered, sweet, cloying, the kind Ngozi loved, the one he had brought her from Paris. He followed it like a trail of ghosts. The ticking clock on the wall sounded louder, each second an accusation. When he reached the bedroom door, he paused. From the other side came muffled sounds, a faint giggle, then a man's voice. Deep, familiar. For a second, his entire body froze. He knew that voice. Tunde, his younger brother. The boy he had pulled out of poverty, given a job, sheltered, guided like a son. Chike's chest tightened. He didn't want to believe what his mind was telling him. Maybe he misheard. Maybe it was the TV. Maybe. But there was no TV sound, only whispers, laughter, sheets rustling. He pressed his palm against the door. The wood felt alive, vibrating with sin. He turned the handle, slowly, quietly. And when the door opened, time stopped. Ngozi, his wife, was in bed. Silk sheets tangled around her legs, her body half-covered, laughter frozen on her lips. And beside her, shirtless, startled eyes, wide as headlights, was Tunde. For a heartbeat, none of them moved. Then Ngozi gasped, clutching the sheet to her chest. "Chike, this isn't—" But he didn't hear her. The world had gone silent again except for the sound of his own heartbeat, loud, merciless. He took a step back, his eyes locked on them, his mind refusing to process the picture before him. Tunde stood stammering. "Brother, I can explain." "Explain? What does one explain when betrayal has a face?" Chike said nothing. He turned and walked away. The rain outside pounded harder, a furious applause for heartbreak. Down the stairs, past the portrait of their wedding day, past the hallway where Ngozi once kissed him goodbye every morning. His hand trembled as he grabbed his car keys. Amara stood frozen by the kitchen counter, tears in her eyes. She didn't need to ask what had happened. She already knew. "Sir," she whispered. He looked at her just for a second. No words. Just pain so deep it stripped him of language. Then he walked out into the storm. The rain hit his face like punishment. He climbed into the SUV, started the engine, and sat there gripping the steering wheel, unable to move. The house loomed behind him like a mausoleum, his dreams buried inside. The windshield fogged up. His reflection stared back hollow-eyed, unrecognizable. He slammed the gear into drive and pulled onto the road. No direction, no plan. Just the need to get away from the smell of perfume, the echo of laughter, the image of the two people he loved most entangled in deceit. The city blurred around him. Horns blared, lights streaked across his windshield, but he barely saw them. His mind replayed every memory, Ngozi's gentle voice, her promises, Tunde's laughter, when they were boys sharing a single bed in their mother's small house. He had given Tunde everything. A new start, a place in his company. Even trust. And this was what came back to him, betrayal wrapped in silk sheets. By the time he stopped, he didn't even know where he was. A gas station blinked in the distance. He parked beside the pumps, turned off the engine, and sat in silence, hands trembling. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Finally, he stepped out, bought a bottle of water, drank it in one gulp, and sat on the bench near the road. The storm had passed, but his world hadn't stopped raining. He thought about calling someone, his lawyer, his mother, but what would he say? "My wife is sleeping with my brother," the words burned before they reached his mouth. Instead, he closed his eyes and whispered, "Why?" No answer. Only the hum of truck engines and the hiss of wet tires on asphalt. When he finally opened his eyes, a woman stood before him. She wore a black t-shirt and jeans, her hair tied back. Her gaze was curious but kind. "You look like a man who's lost his way," she said softly. Cheek gave a small, bitter laugh. "Maybe I have." She smiled faintly. "This city eats men alive when they stop fighting. Don't let it." Her name was Zainab, the owner of a roadside bar. She didn't ask his story, and he didn't offer one. She poured him a beer, slid it across the counter, and said, "Sometimes people need silence more than sympathy." For the first time that night, Cheek felt something other than pain. He felt seen. They talked briefly about Lagos traffic, about the rain, about nothing at all. But her calm voice grounded him. When he left, she called out, "Come back if you ever need to breathe." He nodded. He didn't know it yet, but that woman would soon become the key to uncovering everything, the betrayal beneath the betrayal. Driving away, the city lights blurred like ghosts of promises. Chike whispered to himself, "If truth lives in the dark, I'll bring it into the light." As he merged back onto the highway, the radio whispered a Yoruba proverb his grandmother once loved: "The axe forgets, but the tree remembers." He gripped the wheel tighter. Yes, he would remember. And soon, everyone else would too. The next morning rose heavy and gray, as if even the Lagos sun refused to shine on betrayal. Inside his office on the 40th floor of Nwosu Holdings, Chike sat behind the massive glass desk, staring through his own reflection. The skyline below buzzed with life cars, noise, people chasing wealth. Yet he, the man who had it all, felt hollow. He had not slept. Every blink replayed last night like a cursed film. The perfume, the laughter, the look on Ngozi's face when she was caught. And Tunde, his own blood. His assistant Miriam knocked softly and entered. "Sir, your 10 a.m. meeting with the Korean investors." "Cancel everything," he said quietly. She hesitated. "Sir, are you?" "Just do it." When she left, the silence returned. He leaned back, exhaling shakily. His mind ran wild. How long had it been going on? Was it a one-time mistake or a pattern? Did everyone in the house know except him? The humiliation burned deeper than rage. At noon, his phone vibrated. Ngozi's name flashed across the screen. He let it ring. When it stopped, a message followed. "Please, let me explain. I made a mistake. I was lost. Come home. Please." He read it once, then again, then deleted it. An hour later, another message came, this time from Tunde. "Brother, we need to talk. Don't do anything stupid. I'll come by tonight." Cheek laughed bitterly. "You already did something stupid," he muttered. He stood, walked to the window, and looked down at the bustling city. Everyone out there was fighting for survival. Yet inside these high towers, the real wars were waged in silence, betrayal, dressed in perfume and bloodlines. A sharp knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. It was Amara, the housemaid. She stood hesitantly at the entrance, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. "Sir," she began softly, "I'm sorry for what you saw. I didn't know how to tell you." Chike turned, studying her. She was in her early 30s, tall and composed, but weary, as though life had already tested her too many times. "How long have you known?" he asked. Her hands trembled slightly. "A few weeks, maybe more. I saw things. I heard whispers. But I thought it wasn't my place to speak." He clenched his jaw. "It was your place. This is my house." Tears welled in her eyes. "I was afraid, sir." Madam threatened to fire me if I said anything. And Tunde, she stopped. What about him? He told me, if I opened my mouth I'd regret it. He said people disappear in Lagos all the time. A chill crawled through Chaik's spine. Tunde had always been impulsive but never violent. Or had he just never seen that side before? Why are you telling me now? Amara looked straight at him. Because you deserve truth, and because you treated me like family when no one else did. Something in her voice, steady, honest, broke the fog inside him. He nodded. Thank you. She hesitated. There's something else, sir. I think Tunde has been stealing from you. That got his full attention. What do you mean? She explained in fragments, late-night visits to the study, missing envelopes, papers in foreign languages, phone calls at odd hours. She had once caught him leaving the office with a folder marked confidential contracts. Dubai division. He said it was company work, Amara whispered. But the next morning you were asking about missing documents. Chaik sat back down, mind racing. Betrayal upon betrayal. If this was true, then Tunde hadn't only taken his wife, he was taking his company too. He stood suddenly. Thank you, Amara. From now on, you tell me everything you see or hear. Understood. Yes, sir. Good. Go home for today. And lock your doors tonight. As she left, he sat again, rubbing his temples. The betrayal had layers, personal, professional, spiritual. That evening, rain returned gentle, this time tapping against the office windows like fingers, reminding him he was still alive. Chaik opened his laptop and began digging through financial records, bank statements, transfer logs, expense sheets. Nothing obvious. Tunde had always been clever, hiding behind layers of shell companies. His phone buzzed again. This time a call from Mr. Balogun, the family accountant. Ah, Chaik, I was just about to call you, the old man said. There's something strange. Some large transfers from the company account to a foreign branch that doesn't exist on your system. Chaik's pulse spiked. How large? About $1 million. Maybe more. Who authorized them? Silence. Then Balogun said, your brother's login credentials. Chaik gripped the phone. Can you verify that? Yes. I checked twice. And the receiving account is under a company named Green Savvy Holdings. Never seen it before. Where is this company registered? Balogun hesitated. Here in Lagos, but the listed address is your private villa in Victoria Island. For a moment, Chaik couldn't breathe. His brother had used his home as cover for fraud. He closed his eyes, rage simmering like fire under his ribs. Keep quiet about this, Balogun. Don't tell anyone, not even Gozi. Understood. When he hung up, he stared out at the Lagos skyline again. The city glittered in deceit. His phone rang again, this time Zainab. He hesitated, then answered. You didn't come back to the bar, she said, voice warm but teasing. I had things to handle. I can tell, she replied. Your voice sounds like someone who swallowed fire. He smiled faintly despite himself. You could say that. Then maybe I should bring water, she said. Come by tonight. My bar's quiet after midnight. He considered refusing, but the idea of silence with someone who didn't demand answers appealed to him. Maybe I will. When he arrived later, the rain had stopped. Her bar Z's place was small but cozy, lit with amber lamps and music soft as memory. Zainab looked up from the counter. You came. I needed air, he said. She poured him a drink. Air is free. Healing costs extra. He chuckled. You always talk like that. Only to people who look like they've seen ghosts. He met her gaze, thoughtful. I have. They didn't talk about details, but she understood the weight behind his words. She said quietly, betrayal cuts deepest when it wears your last name. He looked at her, startled. How do you know? She shrugged. Lagos teaches you things. And I listen. He sipped the drink. I don't know what to do next. Find truth, she said simply. Not revenge. Truth burns cleaner. Those words lodged in his mind like a seed. When he left, she handed him a card. My cousin works in cybersecurity. If you ever need someone to trace digital footprints, call him. Why are you helping me? Because you look like a man who once helped people too. That night, back in his penthouse, Chaik opened his laptop again. The name Green Savvy Holdings pulsed in his mind. He typed it into a search engine, and there it was registered 3 months ago, listing Roy Martins as managing director. Roy, the company accountant who worked under Tunde. Everything connected. Chaik leaned back, the pieces forming in his mind. Tunde had created a shell company. Roy had processed the funds. Ngozi was a distraction, emotional camouflage while they drained his empire. He whispered, you thought you broke me. You only woke me. He picked up his phone and texted Balogun. Prepare every financial record from the last 6 months. Meet me privately tomorrow. And find everything you can about Roy Martins. Then almost without thinking, he sent another message to Amara. Thank you. Be careful. You did right. For a long while he sat by the window watching the city lights flicker below. Betrayal had taken everything soft from him, but it had also given him clarity. The man who once believed in love now believed in justice. And by dawn, Chika Nwosu had a new purpose: expose the rot beneath his own name, no matter whose blood it cost. Outside, lightning flashed again, brief, brilliant, and merciless. It felt like a promise. The following day began with a deceptive calm. The kind of quiet that Lagos rarely knew. No horns, no shouting vendors, only the soft hum of the city before chaos. Chika Nwosu stood in front of the mirror, tightening his tie, but his reflection felt like a stranger's. The same crisp suit, the same confident stance, yet his eyes told a story of sleepless nights and broken certainties. He left his penthouse before sunrise, carrying only a laptop bag and a fury buried deep behind calm eyes. His destination, Balogun's office in Victoria Island, an old accountant's den stacked with files smelling faintly of dust and trust. Balogun was already waiting, his gray beard, neatly combed eyes, sharp as ever. I knew you wouldn't sleep, Chike, he said. I've seen this look before, the look of a man about to go to war. Chike dropped his bag onto the desk. Then help me win it. The old man handed him a flash drive. Everything you asked for. Bank logs, signatures, cross-linked company IDs. Your brother has been busy. Chike plugged it in and scrolled. Lines of transactions filled the screen: dates, amounts, shell company names. All legitimate on paper, all bleeding him dry in reality. Roy Martin's signature appears here, here, and here, Balogun pointed out. But look closer. Each transaction required secondary authorization, and that came from Tunde's login. Chike clenched his jaw. He thought he was smart, but even ghosts leave footprints. Balogun leaned forward. What are you planning? Not revenge, Chike said quietly. Not yet. First I need truth recorded undeniable. Balogun nodded slowly, and after Chike's eyes hardened, then I'll burn their lies with it. By mid-morning he drove to Green Savvy Holdings, the phantom company stealing his fortune. The address listed was one of his own properties, a seaside villa he hadn't visited in months. As his car pulled into the driveway, a sense of betrayal returned like bile. He used to bring Ngozi there on weekends, picnics, laughter, love. Now it was a front for fraud. He unlocked the door. Inside, the air smelled of new paint and deceit. Laptops and ledgers lay scattered across the glass table. Someone had been working here recently. He moved carefully, searching drawers, scanning papers. Then his phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. Leave before you regret it. He froze, looked out the window. A car was parked across the road, tinted windows, watching. He didn't panic. Instead, he took photos of everything: invoices, wiring details, a half-burned document in the trash. He pocketed the flash drive and left through the back door, heart pounding but face unreadable. That evening, as thunder rolled again over Lagos, he met Zainab at her bar. She was wiping the counter, her dark eyes catching the flicker of neon lights. You look like a man who's seen the devil, she said softly. Close enough, Chike muttered, taking a seat. I found their base. My brother's signature is everywhere. Zainab tilted her head. You got proof? He slid his phone across the table, showing the photos. More than enough to bury him. She studied the images carefully. These are time-stamped. If you cross-check the IP from the transfers, you'll have legal evidence. Chike frowned. I don't know how to do that. Zainab smiled faintly. I told you my cousin handles cyber forensics. Give me 24 hours. He hesitated. Why are you helping me? Because she said, meeting his eyes, betrayal is contagious. If you don't cut it out, it spreads. I've seen too many men rot from silence. He nodded, silently grateful. Meanwhile, in another corner of Lagos, Tunde sat in an expensive restaurant sipping whiskey with Roy Martins, the company accountant. His laughter was sharp, careless. Relax, Roy, Tunde said, swirling his drink. My brother won't dare touch me, he's too proud. Always has been. Roy looked nervous. But what if he's digging? Balogun's no fool. Tunde leaned forward, voice low. Then we dig faster. I've already shifted funds to a new account in Ghana. Ngozi's keeping him distracted. Roy's eyebrows shot up. You still seeing her? Tunde smirked. She's loyal. For now, fear keeps her that way. But in truth, Ngozi wasn't loyal, she was terrified. The guilt of betrayal was eating her alive. In their bedroom, she sat staring at her wedding photo, tears streaking her face. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Tunde. He knows. Keep quiet or I'll ruin you too. She typed back, fingers trembling. Please stop. I can't live like this. No reply came. Only silence, the kind that crushes. That night, Amara visited the staff quarters behind the mansion. She had barely eaten all day. Her hands still shook from what she'd witnessed, the collapse of a family built on lies. But deep inside, she also feared for Chaik. When she stepped outside for air, a note fluttered across the porch, folded, handwritten. The boss is being watched. Tell him not to trust anyone. There was no signature. Her breath caught. She looked around, nothing but darkness and the distant hum of the city. Someone was warning her or threatening her. She rushed inside, locked the door, and hid the note in her apron. She didn't know who to trust anymore. At the same hour, Chaik sat in his study reviewing the photos again. Each document was a stab in his chest. His brother's betrayal now had paper trails. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, but even that burned too bitter. His phone rang. Ngozi. He hesitated, then answered. Her voice was hoarse from crying. Chaik, please, let me explain. He said nothing. I didn't mean for it to happen, she continued, her words tumbling over sobs. You were always busy, always distant. He was there. It was a mistake, Chaik. I swear I still love you. He laughed coldly. Love? You call it love when it crawls into your husband's bed wearing his brother's smile? Please, she whispered. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Ngozi, listen carefully. Whatever this was, it ends now. You and Tunde destroyed the home we built, but I'm not done. I'm going to uncover everything you two have been hiding. Her breath hitched. What are you saying? I'm saying, he said, voice calm, like a blade that judgment always comes home. And when it does, I'll be the one opening the door. He ended the call. For a long time he sat still, only the rain speaking for him. Then his phone buzzed again, a text from Zainab. I found the digital trail. You were right. The money leads straight to a shell account in Accra, owned by Tunde Nwosu. Beneath that, a second message. But that's not all. Someone from your office helped him. Name Roy Martins. Cheek exhaled slowly. The circle was closing. He typed back, good work. Keep this between us. Tomorrow we set the trap. He stood, walked to the window, and stared at the lightning flashing above Lagos. Each strike lit the skyline for only a second, like truth, bright but fleeting. Behind him, the family portrait still hung on the wall himself. Ngozi and Tunde smiling, as if love could never rot. He took it down, stared at it for a moment, then whispered, let's see who smiles when the masks fall. As the storm outside deepened, so did the one within him. He wasn't just a man betrayed anymore. He was a man preparing for war. And this time, the battlefield wasn't love, it was justice. Lagos woke to another heavy sky, the kind that felt like it carried secrets. The streets steamed from the night's rain, and thunder rolled faintly over the city's edge. In the penthouse office of Nwosu Holdings, Chaik stood in front of a digital whiteboard, lines of data and photos spread across it like a crime scene. To anyone else, he looked calm, immaculate suit, quiet control, but inside, every nerve screamed. Across the desk sat Zainab Azuri. That one's linked to your Roy Martins. Chaik nodded. Yes, she smirked. Nicely put. But here's the twist. Both Roy and Tunde used your personal villas. Chaik clenched his fist on the desk. They used my name, my home, and my trust. They planned this months in advance. Zainab looked up at him. You need to decide, are you handing them to the police or do you want to watch them bury themselves? He didn't answer right away. The rain outside thickened again, sliding down the glass like tears. Finally he said, I want truth to reveal itself. Not because I said it, but because they confess it themselves. Zainab nodded. Then we set a trap. That afternoon, Chaik met Amara at a quiet cafe near Lekki. She arrived early, wrapped in a navy shawl, her posture tense. Sir, she whispered as she sat, someone left a note at my door last night. It said, you're being watched. No name. He looked around, scanning the cafe. Nothing unusual. You did the right thing telling me. She swallowed. I'm scared. Whoever wrote it, they know where I live. He leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. You're safe now. I'll have someone watch over you. But I need one more favor. Amara frowned. Anything, sir. I want you to call Ngozi tonight, Cheek said. Tell her I'm coming home. Tell her I want to talk alone. Make sure Tunde hears about it. Amara hesitated. You're setting them up. Yes, he said quietly. I'm giving them a chance to lie one last time. Her eyes softened, a mix of fear and respect. You're a good man, sir. Don't let their evil change that. Chaik smiled faintly. I won't. But truth needs its own thunder. That night, as the city lights blinked like restless eyes, Chaik parked 2 streets away from his mansion. Inside, Zainab and her cousin Farouk had planted 3 hidden cameras, one in the living room, one near the study, and one outside the bedroom door. Audio's live. Zainab whispered through his earpiece. "We're recording everything." He nodded, watching the rain start again. Inside the house, Ngozi paced the marble floor, hands shaking. Across from her, Tunde leaned casually against the bar. Drink in hand, arrogance painted across his face. "You shouldn't have called him," he said. "You'll ruin everything." Ngozi turned sharply. "Everything's already ruined. You said he'd never find out," Tunde smirked. "He wasn't supposed to. But the old man Balogun must have sniffed around." She threw the glass to the floor. "You promised me a life. You said once the transfers were done we'd leave." He laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You believed that, Ngozi. You were convenient. A weapon, not a wife." Her mouth dropped. "You're lying." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You think I risked prison for love? Please, I did it for power. For freedom from being the little brother living in his shadow." Ngozi slapped him. The sound cracked through the rain. Outside in the car, Chaik froze. Even after everything, hearing it still cut deep. Tunde's voice rose. "Go ahead, slap me again. You'll still go down with me when this blows up. The documents are under your name too." "Remember," Ngozi's voice broke. "You're a monster. And you, Tunde spat, are an accessory." The tension inside the room pulsed like a storm about to break. Then the front door opened. Cheek stepped in, slow, deliberate. His black raincoat dripped water onto the marble floor. He looked first at Ngozi, tear-streaked, terrified, then at his brother, who stood frozen, guilt written plain across his smirk. "Tunde," he said quietly, "you always loved my house. My life, my wife. Now let's see how you like my justice." Tunde's hand twitched. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Chaik interrupted. "You stole from me. You betrayed me. And you used my wife to hide your theft." Ngozi fell to her knees, sobbing. "Cheek, please." "He forced me," but Tunde laughed. "Forced you? Don't insult him, Ngozi." "You were eager enough when you came to my bed." Chaik's face hardened. "Enough." He took out his phone and pressed a button. On the big living room TV, the security footage began to play. Zainab's recordings. The entire conversation that had just happened. Their confessions, their greed. Tunde's smirk faltered. "You bugged the house." "No," Chaik said. "I protected it." Before Tunde could move, 2 plainclothes officers stepped in from the rain, handcuffs glinting. "You're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and identity theft," one said. Tunde turned on his brother, shouting, "You'll regret this. You think you're righteous. You built your empire on lies too." Chaik's voice was calm. "Maybe, but mine didn't destroy family." As the officers dragged Tunde out, Ngozi collapsed completely, sobbing into her palms. Cheek watched in silence, no triumph, no satisfaction, just exhaustion. When the door closed, he turned away. Ngozi reached out weakly. "Please don't leave me. I can explain everything." He looked at her for the last time. No explanation can rebuild a house once the foundation is rot. He walked out. Outside, the rain was relentless, washing over the driveway, as if trying to cleanse the sins left inside. Zainab stood by her car, holding an umbrella. "It's done," she said softly. Cheek nodded. "Yes, but it doesn't feel done. Justice rarely feels like peace," she said. "But it's a start." He looked up at the gray sky. "My own brother, Zainab, I raised him, paid for his schooling, brought him into my business. And he still chose greed," she replied. "Sometimes blood isn't family. Character is." They stood in silence as police lights flashed red and blue against the wet walls. After a while, Zainab said, "What will you do now?" "Find the rest of the truth," he said. "I can feel it, there's more." This didn't start with money. It started with something darker. She tilted her head. "Darker." He nodded, voice low. "Tunde mentioned something about shadow investors. I think someone bigger was behind him." Zainab's expression sharpened. "Then our storm isn't over." Chaik gave a faint, weary smile. "No, it's only changing direction." The thunder rolled again across Lagos, echoing the promise of unfinished justice. Somewhere deep inside the mansion, the lights flickered, and a single portrait frame of the Nwosu family fell to the ground, shattering. As the pieces scattered across the marble, one photo corner caught the reflection of lightning, 3 faces, once bound by love, now divided by deceit. And from that shattered glass, a new war was about to begin. The morning after Tunde's arrest came with no sunlight. Lagos was drowned in fog, the kind that makes buildings look like ghosts of themselves. Chaik Nwosu stood at the window of his penthouse, staring at the city that had once crowned him king. Now it felt like a kingdom built on shifting sand. Down below, traffic swarmed as usual, the world moving on as if nothing had happened. But for Chaik, time had slowed. His brother was in jail, his wife was under police investigation, and his empire, though intact, was scarred. His phone buzzed with endless calls, journalists, board members, even pastors. He ignored them all. Then one message blinked through a single line from an unknown number. You took one pawn, but the game isn't over. He stared at it, cold washing through his veins. Before he could reply, a knock came. It was Zainab holding 2 coffees. She'd barely slept either. You look like hell, she said, setting the cups down. He gave a humorless smile. I feel worse. I saw the news. They're saying you turned your own brother in. He shrugged. Let them say what they want. I didn't destroy my family. I only uncovered the rot. She studied him for a moment, her eyes soft but sharp. You still believe that? He sighed. I want to. But blood isn't water, Zainab. It stains longer. They stood in silence. Outside the fog thickened, swallowing the skyline. Then she said, my cousin traced one more thing last night. You were right, Tunde wasn't acting alone. Chaik turned sharply. Who else? Zainab opened her laptop and pulled up a file. There's an encrypted message chain between Tunde and a private number registered offshore. The name behind it, Odera Group. Chaik frowned. Never heard of them. You wouldn't, she said. They're a shadow firm. Shell corporations in multiple countries used for moving dirty money. And one of their local agents, Roy Martins. Chaik's hands curled into fists. Roy's in jail too. Exactly, Zainab replied. But Odera's bigger. They don't care about Roy or Tunde, they use them as tools. And if they know you're the one who exposed the fraud, they won't stay quiet. The phone buzzed again, another anonymous text. Check your company's board. The traitor's still inside. He looked at Zainab. Someone's playing both sides. Hours later, in a conference room filled with cold faces and expensive suits, Cheek sat at the head of the Nwosu Holdings board meeting. The table gleamed under the harsh lights. 12 executives sat pretending calm, their eyes flicking from Cheek to the door as though expecting a ghost. Cheek spoke first. You've all seen the headlines. My brother and our former accountant betrayed this company. They're facing justice, but I believe there's more. Someone in this room helped them. A murmur rippled across the room. Sir, one director, Mr. Namdi, said carefully, Are you suggesting we're criminals? Chaik's gaze was ice. I'm suggesting someone here approved transactions that funneled millions out of company accounts and did so after Roy's arrest. The room went silent. He pressed a button on his laptop. On the large screen appeared a bank transfer log dated 2 nights ago, $250, 000, wired to Odera Group Limited. The approval signature, Namdi Ibekwe. Gasps broke out. Namdi's face drained of color. This isn't me. Someone forged my credentials. Chaik leaned forward. Like my brothers, the man trembled. Sir, I swear, but Chaik wasn't listening. The truth was unfolding faster than he'd imagined. Tunde's betrayal had opened a door, and through it the shadows were pouring in. He dismissed the meeting abruptly, calling Zainab as soon as he stepped into his office. It's deeper than we thought, he said. The Odera Group's inside my board, she replied. Then it's time to pull them into the light. That night, Amara sat alone in her small apartment, staring at the flickering candlelight. The silence of the house pressed in around her. She had avoided social media, avoided the news. The scandal of the Nwosu family had exploded everywhere, videos leaked, photos, gossip. She prayed quietly, her hands clasped. Lord, protect him, she whispered. He doesn't deserve this. Then her phone buzzed a call from Chaik. Sir, she answered quickly. I need your help again, he said. His voice was steady, but beneath it she heard exhaustion. You remember the man who used to deliver sealed envelopes to the house every Friday? Yes. Mr. Roy's assistant, I think. Tall, bald. Find him. See if he's still in Lagos. He might know where the Odera files are kept. Amara hesitated. It's dangerous, sir. I know, he said, but danger doesn't scare me anymore. She nodded even though he couldn't see her. I'll do what I can. After the call ended, she sat in the dark for a long while, her heart heavy. Something inside her stirred an old feeling she'd buried long ago, the instinct to protect. Meanwhile, in his office, Chaik reviewed a file labeled Tunde's confession transcript. His brother's words echoed in his head. You think you're clean, Chaik. You think your company's holy. Look deeper. You'll see the blood money you've been washing for years. At first, he dismissed it as spite, but now, after Zainab's findings and the anonymous warnings, the words gnawed at him. Could Odera Group have been using his business long before Tunde's scheme? He shut the file restless. Zainab called him again near midnight. I found something, she said. A contract in your archives 5 years old. Nwosu Holdings signed a logistics partnership with a foreign investor group under a proxy name. Guess what? It's Odera Group. Chaik's heart sank. That's impossible. We vetted every investor. Not this one, she said. The documents were buried under a different subsidiary. I think someone in your old finance team planted them. He rubbed his forehead. Which means my empire's been tainted from the inside out. Maybe not, Zainab said softly. Maybe this is your chance to clean it. Cheek leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. You know what the Yoruba say? When you sweep your house, sweep the corners too. That's where the scorpions hide. The next day, Lagos woke restless again. Headlines screamed about the Nwosu scandal, yet inside Cheek's office, something shifted. The mask of the businessman cracked, revealing the man beneath one driven not by pride, but by purpose. He called the Economic Crimes Unit himself, volunteering full cooperation. He turned over documents, names, accounts. He told them he wanted every shadow burned away. Later that afternoon, Amara called. Her voice was breathless. Sir, I found the assistant. He works at a print shop now in Yaba. He says he still has copies of Roy's ledgers, but someone's been following him. Chaik's pulse quickened. Tell him to meet me tonight at the bar, Zainab's place. It's safer. By evening, the fog had turned to rain again. Chaik sat in a corner booth waiting. Zainab watched the door, every sense alert. When the assistant arrived, soaked and nervous, he handed over a flash drive wrapped in plastic. This has everything, the man said. Names, transfers, even phone recordings. But sir, be careful, they've killed before. Before Chaik could ask who they were, the bar's window shattered, gunfire tearing through the glass. Zainab ducked first, dragging the assistant to the floor. Chaik flipped the table for cover. The shots stopped as suddenly as they started. When he looked up, 2 men in black helmets were gone, motorcycles roaring away into the storm. Zainab's cousin burst in seconds later, weapon drawn. You okay? Chaik nodded grimly. I think we just met the real Odera Group. He turned the flash drive over in his hand, feeling its weight like destiny. This is our proof. But it also means they'll come for us next. Zainab looked him straight in the eye. Then we stop running. We fight back. He met her gaze, steady and cold. Yes. But this time we fight like they do in the dark. As the rain outside intensified, thunder boomed across Lagos. The storm had returned fiercer than before. But so had Chaik. And this time he wasn't just fighting for revenge. He was fighting for redemption, for his name, his family, and the truth that refused to die quietly. The night after the shooting never really ended. The rain came down in sheets, washing away footprints and blood alike, and Lagos glowed beneath lightning flashes like a city on trial. Inside Z's bar, the police had finished their questions. The broken glass swept into a corner, and the scent of gunpowder still clung to the air. Cheek Nwosu sat on a stool, his shirt stained from the scuffle. Across from him, Zainab paced the floor, her phone glued to her ear as she barked orders at her cousin Farouk to secure digital backups of the flash drive. Whoever these men are, she said, they're professional. No fingerprints, no faces, no number plates. They came to erase something. They came to erase me, Cheek said quietly. Zainab hung up, turning toward him. Then we make sure you're impossible to erase. He looked down at the small, wet flash drive lying on the counter between them. Everything that matters is in there. She nodded. And we'll guard it like a heartbeat. By dawn, the two of them were at Chaik's penthouse, running the flash drive through an encrypted laptop Farouk had provided. The screen came alive with files, hundreds of them, bank transfers, email threads, and audio recordings. Chaik clicked on one of the audio files. A man's voice came through, smooth and accented, like someone used to giving orders. You make sure the money flows clean. Tunde plays the fool in public, but he knows the job. Once the brother signs, the trail's covered. If he resists, silence him. Chaik froze. Did he just say, silence me? Zainab listened again. The accent sounds South African. He mentioned the brother. That means you. Another file opened automatically, emails between Roy Martins and someone with the handle ODR exec. Roy funds transferred. Nwosu doesn't suspect, but Tunda's getting sloppy. ODR exec sloppy men are replaceable. Finish your work and vanish. Chaik scrolled through more names, more numbers, politicians, import companies, shell accounts. It was a web of corruption far bigger than his family's betrayal. Zainab, he whispered, this isn't just about me. Odera Group is laundering money through half of Lagos, even government contracts. She looked at him gravely. Then we're holding a bomb. He nodded. And the longer we keep it, the closer they'll come. By mid-morning, Amara arrived at the penthouse carrying a small bag and a face full of worry. "Sir," she said softly, "the assistant, the man from the bar, he's gone. I went to his shop this morning. It's empty." Completely cleaned out. Zainab cursed under her breath. "They're cleaning the trail." Chaik stood. "We're next." He turned to Amara. "Pack your things. You'll stay here for now. It's safer." Her eyes widened. "Sir, I can't." "You can," he said gently, "and you will. You helped me when everyone else was lying. I won't have them find you." She nodded reluctantly, but her voice trembled. "It feels like evil follows us everywhere." Cheek glanced at the rain-soaked city beyond the glass windows. "Evil doesn't follow," he said. "It hides in the places we refuse to look." Later that day, they met Inspector Daramola, a hardened officer from the Economic Crimes Unit. The man had a salt and pepper beard and eyes that looked like they'd seen too many lies. "You understand what you're giving me?" Daramola asked, flipping through the files Zainab had printed. "This isn't just white-collar crime. These are politicians, bank directors. You're opening a graveyard." Chaik replied, "I just want truth. Whatever grave it digs up, let it." Daramola studied him. "Your brother mentioned Odera during his interrogation, said he was approached by someone promising freedom and wealth. If what's on this drive is real, we'll need to protect you." Chaik laughed bitterly. "Protect me? The last time I trusted someone, I buried my peace of mind." The inspector slid a card across the desk. "You'll need this anyway. Call me when you're ready to testify." Zainab frowned. "And if they come after us before that?" Daramola didn't blink. "Then pray your God works overtime." That night the storm returned. Amara stood at the penthouse balcony, watching lightning strike the far end of the lagoon. Behind her, Chaik poured 2 glasses of water and handed her one. "You should rest," he said. She shook her head. "I can't sleep. Every sound makes me jump." He leaned on the railing beside her. "When I was younger," he said, "my father used to tell me, when thunder comes, it doesn't destroy what's strong. It only tests it." She smiled faintly. "Then we're being tested a lot lately." He looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in days. Her eyes carried exhaustion, but also resilience. "You've been through worse, haven't you?" he asked quietly. Amara hesitated, then nodded. "My husband, he died because of men like them. I swore I'd never stand by while greed destroyed another life." He felt a strange warmth in his chest, a connection born of shared wounds. "Then you're braver than most." Before she could respond, Zainab rushed into the room, laptop in hand. "We have a problem," she said. "Someone just hacked into our system. They're tracing the flash drive." "How long do we have?" Chaik asked. "Minutes." He grabbed his phone. "Farouk cut the connection. Now I'm trying," came the frantic voice over the line. "They're fast, too fast. It's not random. This is state-level access." Zainab's face paled. "They're inside government servers." "Which means," Chaik said grimly, "Odera isn't just a company. It's part of the government." They fled the penthouse before midnight, driving under the storm toward an abandoned warehouse near Apapa that Zainab's cousin used as a backup server site. The city blurred past rain lights and the hum of danger. Inside the warehouse, Farouk met them with a generator humming in the corner. "I copied everything offline," he said. "But they'll know soon enough. They've already frozen some of your company's accounts." Chaik's stomach twisted. "They're dismantling my name piece by piece." "Maybe," Farouk said, "but they can't erase evidence. I hid a second copy on the dark web under an encrypted key. If anything happens to us, it'll go public." Zainab smiled grimly. "Insurance." Suddenly Amara pointed to the window. Car lights. 3 black SUVs pulled up outside, engines growling over the rain. "Move," Chaik shouted. Farouk killed the lights. Zainab grabbed the flash drive and shoved it into her boot. The door rattled under heavy pounding. "Open up, police," a voice shouted. Zainab's eyes widened. "Daramola." The pounding grew louder. "We have a warrant." But something was wrong. The tone was too harsh, too impatient. Chaik hissed. If it were real police, they'd already be inside. He motioned them toward the back exit. They ran through stacks of crates toward the loading dock, the storm wind slapping against their faces. Behind them, the front doors crashed open, shouts, footsteps, gunfire. Zainab ducked behind a container, returning fire with Farouk's pistol. Sparks flew. Bullets tore through the darkness. Cheek grabbed Amara's hand, pulling her toward a hidden side door. They stumbled into the rain, sprinting through the alley behind the warehouse. The roar of engines followed. They dove into Zainab's van. She slammed the door and hit the gas tires, screeching as they tore into the flooded street. "Who the hell were they?" Amara shouted over the storm. "Odera's men," Chaik said. "The shadows have names now and they're hunting us." Zainab gritted her teeth, eyes fixed on the road. "Then let them chase. We'll lead them straight to the truth." Chaik's gaze hardened. "No more hiding. Tomorrow we go public." Outside, lightning slashed across the sky, illuminating the drenched city like a revelation waiting to explode. For the first time in weeks, Chaik didn't feel powerless. He felt ready. The storm hadn't come to destroy him, it had come to forge him. And somewhere in that thunder, he could almost hear his brother's voice whispering from memory. "You'll never win against the dark," he whispered back. "Watch me." The next morning, the city awoke under a sky the color of ash. A low mist rolled off the lagoon, swallowing the high-rises of Lagos in gray silence. Inside an abandoned apartment on Broad Street, Chaik, Zainab, Amara, and Farouk sat around a flickering oil lamp. None of them had slept. The events of the night, gunfire, the warehouse, the chase still pulsed like electricity in their veins. The floor creaked as Zainab paced back and forth. "We can't keep running," she said. "They'll find this place too." Farouk rubbed his temples. "I've already changed the encryption key twice, but whoever's behind Odera has deep access. They're tracking every move." Chaik sat at the window, staring down at the nearly deserted street below. "Let them track. I'm done hiding," he said softly. Zainab stopped pacing. I mean we take this to the world," Chaik said, standing. "Not the police, not the courts, the public." Farouk frowned. "You'd be risking everything. They'll call you a traitor, a liar. And if Odera's inside government, then it's the only way." Chaik cut in. "Corruption survives in darkness. We'll burn the dark itself." The flame from the lamp flickered wildly as thunder rolled in the distance. Amara, who had been silent, spoke up. "But how, sir? The media's controlled. The ones that aren't Odera can buy them off." Zainab's lips curled into a determined smile. "Not all of them. There's a small, independent network, Voice of the Street. They broadcast straight to social feeds, no censorship. If we give them the files live, Lagos will see everything before anyone can stop it." Chaik nodded slowly. "Then we move tonight." By afternoon, Farouk had re-encrypted the flash drive, uploading a copy to an off-grid server. "This key," he said, handing Chaik a piece of paper, "is the only access code left. If I die, it's yours." Chaik took it without hesitation. "Nobody dies, not for me." Farouk gave a wry grin. "You're assuming we get a choice." Zainab gathered her things. "We'll use my van again. No phones, no trackers." The broadcast studios in Ogilegba Old Cinema Building, 3rd floor. As they prepared to leave, Amara approached Chaik. "Sir, when this is over," she said quietly, "what will you do?" He looked at her for a moment, eyes weary but steady. "Start over. Build something honest. Maybe help people who never had a chance." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "That sounds like hope." He nodded. "It's the only weapon they can't steal." The drive across the city was tense. Every honking Danfo bus felt like a threat, every police checkpoint a trap. The rain had finally stopped, but the air hung heavy with the smell of wet earth and exhaust fumes. As they neared Ojuelegba, Zainab suddenly slowed the van. "Something's wrong," she muttered. Ahead, 2 black SUVs blocked the narrow street leading to the cinema. Men in suits stood beside them, pretending to smoke but clearly armed. Farouk cursed under his breath. "They're already here." Chaik scanned the alleyways. "We can't go through the front. There's a back entrance through the market. Stall's old fire exit behind a fruit shop." Zainab nodded. "Good. Then we split. Farouk and I will distract them at the main road. You and Amara take the files inside." Chaik hesitated. "No, I won't." She cut him off. "Don't argue. You're the face they want dead, not me. Let us buy you 10 minutes. He met her eyes. "Don't get yourself killed, Zainab." She smirked. "Please. I'm too angry to die." The plan unfolded fast. While Zainab and Farouk drove toward the barricade, revving the van engine loud enough to draw attention, Chaik and Amara slipped into the maze of market stalls, ducking under tarps and weaving between tables stacked with pineapples and cheap shoes. Rainwater still dripped from the awnings. Vendors yelled half-heartedly at customers, unaware that a war was passing between them. At the end of the row, they found the fruit shop. Chaik lifted the metal shutter just high enough to crawl under, then guided Amara inside. The smell of rot and damp cardboard filled the room. "There," she whispered, pointing. A rusty door marked fire exit. He kicked it open. Beyond it, a narrow stairway led upward into darkness. They climbed quickly, the sound of distant shouting echoing behind them. When they reached the third floor, a single bulb flickered above a metal door painted with the faded sign, Voice of the Street Media. Inside, 3 young journalists sat at their computers, headphones on. One of them, a woman with braided hair and fierce eyes, looked up in shock. "Mr. Nwosu, everyone's looking for you." "Good," he said, tossing the flash drive onto the table. "Then they'll know where to find the truth." She hesitated only a second before plugging it in. Files appeared on the monitor, names, numbers, bank accounts. "This is huge," she breathed. "If this is real, it'll blow half the city apart." "It's real," Chaik said. "Go live." Meanwhile, on the street below, chaos erupted. The SUVs had cornered Zainab's van, guns drawn. Farouk floored the accelerator, ramming one vehicle and spinning into a wall. Bullets shattered the windshield. Zainab grabbed the wheel, her face streaked with sweat and rain. "Go!" Farouk shouted. "Get out!" She kicked the door open and rolled out just as the van exploded in flame. The blast shook the street, sending people screaming. Smoke and fire curled upward, blackening the gray sky. Zainab stumbled through the alley, coughing, clutching her side. Her ears rang, her clothes torn, but she kept moving. Somewhere above, she could hear sirens and faintly a man's voice over a radio. "We've got movement at the cinema building," she gritted her teeth. "No," she whispered. "Not yet." Inside the studio, the broadcast had begun. The anchorwoman spoke into the camera, her voice steady, despite the chaos around them. "This is Voice of the Street coming to you live, with exclusive evidence of a nationwide corruption network linked to the Odera Group. These documents provided by businessman Cheikh Nwosu expose illegal transfers between high-ranking officials and offshore accounts." Suddenly, the door burst open. 2 armed men stormed in. Amara screamed. Chaik moved fast, slamming a metal chair into one attacker, while the journalist dove for cover. The second man fired, glass-shattered sparks flew from the monitor. Chaik tackled him, the gun clattering across the floor. The 2 men struggled, crashing into equipment. Amara grabbed the gun with trembling hands, aiming it. "Stop!" The attacker froze, sneering. Chaik rose slowly, chest heaving. "Put it down," he told her softly. "You're not like them." But before she could answer, the first attacker groaned, reaching for his weapon again. A single shot cracked through the room. Silence. Amara's hands shook violently, the gun smoking. The man lay still. Chaik stared at her, a mixture of shock and sorrow in his eyes. "Amara." Tears streamed down her face. "He would have killed you." He stepped forward, gently taking the gun from her hand. "You saved me. But this will haunt you." The journalist's voice broke through the stunned silence. "The stream's still live," she whispered. "The world saw everything." On the screen behind them, comments flooded in, thousands of them. "We see you, Chaik. Expose them, justice for Nigeria." The truth was out. Minutes later, police sirens wailed closer. Zainab staggered through the smoke into the lobby, half-burned and bleeding but alive. When she saw Chaik standing amid the chaos, she managed a weak grin. "Told you I was too angry to die." He caught her before she fell. "You did it," he said. "No," she murmured. "We did." Outside, the streets filled with onlookers. Phones filmed the burning van, the police, the broken skyline. And through it all, the live stream kept running, proof faces, evidence, truth raining down on Lagos like cleansing fire. Chaik looked at the city below and whispered, "Let it burn clean." Thunder cracked above, echoing the sound of revolution. The storm had begun again, but this time it belonged to him. The video went viral before dawn. Within 6 hours, Voice of the Street's broadcast had crossed every border and every language. The faces of politicians, bankers, and officers, men who had hidden behind power for decades, were suddenly everywhere, flashing on phones and televisions across Africa. Hashtags flooded the internet. Number, Odera exposed. Number, Justice for Lagos. Number, Chaik speaks truth. For once, Lagos wasn't gossiping, it was listening. Inside a guarded safe house in Yabachike, Nwosu sat with Zainab, Amara, and Farouk around a wooden table littered with cold coffee and newspapers. Every headline carried his name. Some called him a hero, others called him a traitor. Chaik rubbed his forehead, exhaustion carving shadows under his eyes. "We did it," he murmured, "but now everyone's watching, and not all of them want the truth to survive." Zainab handed him her phone. "The Economic Crimes Unit issued warrants for half the Odera board. But there's a problem. Inspector Daramola is missing." Cheek looked up sharply. "Missing?" Farouk nodded grimly. "He vanished last night after calling his wife. No trace." His car found near 3rd Mainland Bridge. Amara's face tightened. They're cleaning up witnesses. The room fell silent except for the hum of the ceiling fan. Finally, Zainab said, "We need to leave Lagos, at least for now. I've got contacts in Abuja who can get us safe passage." Chaik shook his head. "Running again? I'm done running." "We stay and face this." Zainab leaned forward. "You don't understand. The men we expose, these aren't common thieves. They have militias, hitmen, judges in their pockets. You'll disappear before morning." Chaik's gaze hardened. "Then I disappear on my own terms." That evening, while the others argued strategy, Amara stepped outside the safe house, her phone buzzing in her pocket. A private number flashed on the screen. "Hesitant," she answered. Amara came a familiar male voice. "It's Tunde." Her blood went cold. "Tunde, how did you get this number? You think prison can hold a man who knows too much?" he said, voice calm, almost amused. "I saw the broadcast. Impressive work. But you think you've won?" Her hands shook. "You belong behind bars. You deserve it." He laughed softly. "Maybe. But your Saint Chaik isn't as innocent as he seems. Ask him about the first Odera contract, the one signed before I touched a single cent." "What are you talking about? Check the archives," Tunde said. 5 years ago, he opened the door for them. I just walked through it. The line went dead. Amara stood frozen in the alley, the rain beginning to fall again, thin, cold, accusing. Inside, she found Cheek alone studying the old files spread across the table. His face looked carved in stone. "Sir," she began cautiously, "can I ask you something?" He looked up. "Of course. Did you ever sign a deal with Odera Group?" Before all this, the question hit like a knife. Chaik leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Why are you asking me that?" She hesitated. "Tunde called me." He said, "Tunde," his voice turned sharp. "You spoke to him. I didn't plan to. He called from nowhere. He said you were the first to bring Odera into your company." For a moment, Chaik said nothing. Then slowly he exhaled. "He's not lying." Zainab, who had just walked in, froze in the doorway. What Chaik rose and walked to the window, rain streaking down the glass like old guilt. 5 years ago, I was desperate to expand Nozu Holdings internationally. We needed investors. Odera came offering clean capital on paper. I thought they were legitimate. I didn't ask enough questions. Zainab crossed her arms. "So you opened the door and your brother finished the robbery." He turned his voice low. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't. By the time I realized it was too late, they were inside every account, every deal." Amara's expression softened, but Zainab's remained cold. "And you never told anyone." "I was ashamed," Chaik said simply. "My pride blinded me. I thought I could fix it quietly." Zainab slammed her hand on the table. "That's how monsters grow, Chaik. People keep quiet to protect their pride." He met her glare. "And what would you have done differently, Zainab? Let them destroy everything before you build anything." For a long moment they stared at each other, the warrior of truth and the man who had birthed his own curse. Then Amara spoke softly. "It doesn't matter how it started. What matters is what we do now." Zainab exhaled sharply. "She's right. We've already lit the fire. Let's finish it." By midnight, Lagos was in chaos. Protests erupted downtown, thousands of young people chanting Chaik's name, waving signs that read, "We see you, Odera, and truth never dies." But the celebration had a darker echo. Armed men in unmarked vans prowled the edges of the city, hunting those connected to the leaks. 2 journalists from Voice of the Street had already vanished. In the safe house, the tension was suffocating. Farouk typed furiously at his laptop. "We've got chatter. Odera's internal network is panicking. They're moving money out of the country, billions," Zainab said. "Then we hit them where it hurts most, their accounts." Farouk grinned. "Already on it." Within minutes, he'd cracked one of the shell accounts. With every click, thousands of dollars redirected into government escrow. "We're freezing them one by one," he said. "By morning, they'll be broke." But Chaik wasn't smiling. "You just painted a target on your back," he said. Farouk shrugged. "Targets make me run faster." Amara touched Chaik's arm. "You've done enough. Let the world handle the rest." He looked at her, voice quiet but certain. "The world won't fix what it didn't build. This mess started with me. It ends with me." At 3 a.m., the power cut. The room plunged into darkness. Farouk, Zainab hissed. "Not me," he said, typing fast. "Someone's overriding the grid." From outside came the low growl of engines, dozens of them. Amara's heart leapt. "They found us." Before anyone could move, gunfire erupted. Bullets shattered the windows, spraying glass across the room. They dove for cover as walls splintered. Farouk yelled, "Get to the basement." Zainab fired back through the doorway, buying them seconds. "Go, I'll cover you," No Chaik shouted. "We go together." She gave him a fierce look. "You're the story, Chaik. The symbol. If you die, this dies with you. Now move." He hesitated, but Amara grabbed his hand. "Please." With a last glance at Zainab, her figure silhouetted against muzzle flashes, he ran. They stumbled down the narrow stairwell into the basement, the sound of battle above echoing like thunder. Farouk shoved a metal door open. "This way, service tunnel to the next street." They crawled through the darkness, the smell of oil and damp concrete thick in their lungs. Behind them, an explosion rocked the building. Amara screamed. Chaik shielded her as debris rained down. When they emerged, the night air hit them like ice. Flames licked the skyline where the safe house once stood. "Zainab," Amara whispered. Chaik stared at the fire, his face blank. "She bought us time." Farouk wiped soot from his face, tears mixing with grime. "We have to keep moving. If she died for this, we finish what she started." Chaik nodded slowly, his voice breaking but firm. "No more hiding. Tomorrow we release everything, every name, every deal. Let the truth bury the guilty." They disappeared into the narrow alleys of Yaba, three shadows moving through a city that no longer slept. Above them, the first call to prayer echoed from a distant mosque, mingling with sirens and the soft hiss of rain. A new dawn was coming, one born not of peace but of reckoning. And as the firelight flickered against the clouds, Chaik whispered to the wind, "Forgive me, Zainab, but I will finish this storm." The smoke from the burning safe house still smeared the Lagos skyline by morning. Helicopters droned overhead, police sirens wailed, and rumors spread faster than truth. Every radio host, blogger, and street vendor was saying the same name, Chaik Nosu. To some, he was a savior, the man who had finally torn open the belly of corruption. To others, he was a traitor who had embarrassed the nation before the world. But to Chaik himself, standing in a cramped motel room near Surulere, he was just a man with blood on his hands, his brother's, his wife's, and now maybe Zainab's. He stared at the cracked bathroom mirror, his reflection distorted by steam. For the first time in weeks, he looked at himself and didn't recognize the man looking back. Behind him, Amara sat on the edge of the bed, clutching a small first aid kit. Farouk was by the window, keeping watch with a cheap revolver tucked in his belt. "She should have made it out," Farouk muttered, voice hollow. Zainab never stayed down. Amara swallowed hard. "She saved us. That has to mean something." Chaik's voice was quiet. "It means we owe her everything, and it means we can't fail now." Farouk nodded grimly. "Then we move. I've got one contact left, a journalist from the Nation Chronicle. He's got international ties. We get him the files, he'll make sure it goes global." Chaik turned. "When tonight? But there's one more thing you should know." Farouk tapped his laptop, showing a frozen frame from a hacked security feed. The image was blurry but clear enough to make Chaik's stomach twist. Tunde, his brother, alive, standing beside uniformed officers at a government building. "He's not in prison anymore," Farouk said. Someone pulled him out. Chaik clenched his fists. "Odera's cleaning house, and they're using my brother to bait me." Amara's voice shook. "Then it's a trap." Chaik nodded slowly. "Yes, but sometimes to end a game you have to walk onto the board." That evening, Lagos trembled under a rising storm. Clouds thickened, heavy and bruised, as though heaven itself was holding its breath. The meeting point was a derelict church on the outskirts of Mushin, a place Farouk said was off-grid. Its cross had fallen long ago, and the stained glass windows were nothing but holes of rain and wind. Sheikh Amara and Farouk arrived just before midnight. The journalist F.A. Onwudiwe waited inside, a lean man with sharp eyes and a camera bag slung across his shoulder. "You brought the files?" he asked without greeting. Farouk handed him the flash drive, all of it. The names, the accounts, the offshore trails, published them all. F.A. plugged it into his tablet, scanning quickly. His eyes widened. This is enough to collapse half the government." "You understand what you're giving me," Sheikh nodded. "I'm giving you the truth. What you do with it is your own judgment." Before Ife could answer, the church doors slammed open. A voice echoed through the hollow space. "You always did love grand gestures, brother." Tunde stepped inside, flanked by two armed men. His prison clothes were gone, replaced by a tailored gray suit. His smile was sharp as broken glass. Farouk drew his gun, but Sheikh raised a hand. "No." Tunde chuckled. "Relax, Farouk. You wouldn't want to die before the confession's over." Chaik's eyes narrowed. "You've traded one cage for another." Tunde shrugged. "Freedom's freedom. Odera made a deal my life in exchange for your silence. But since you didn't stay quiet, they've decided you're no longer useful. The sound of engines roared outside. Shadows moved through the shattered windows, more men surrounding the church. Effie whispered, terrified, "We're trapped." Chike turned to him. "Can you send the files remotely? I need a minute," the journalist said, typing frantically. "I can trigger a live upload if the signal holds." Tunde took a step closer, lowering his gun. "Don't do this, brother. Walk away." Lagos forgets quickly. "You can start again." Chike's voice was calm but lethal. "You killed Zainab." Tunde hesitated just long enough for guilt to flicker across his face. She made her choice. Chike's jaw tightened. "Then so did you." Gunfire erupted. Farouk dove behind a pew, returning shots. Effie crawled toward the altar, shielding his tablet. Amara screamed as bullets shattered the wooden benches, splinters flying like rain. Chike grabbed Tunde, tackling him to the ground. The two brothers rolled across the floor, fists flying. Years of buried resentment spilled out in every blow, rage, love, betrayal, and blood. "You took everything from me," Chike roared. "You gave me nothing," Tunde spat back. "You were always the favorite, the saint. I just wanted my own name. You wanted my life." Lightning split the sky outside. The roof trembled. For a moment, the entire church lit up, two silhouettes locked in chaos. Then, amid the storm, a single gunshot echoed. Both men froze. Amara stood near the doorway, gun shaking in her hand. One of the armed guards collapsed behind Tunde. She had saved Chike again, but her eyes were full of tears. "Enough," she whispered. "Your brothers." Tunde's chest heaved. "Not anymore." He grabbed a fallen weapon, pointing it straight at Chike. But before he could pull the trigger, Farouk fired first. The bullet hit Tunde square in the chest. He staggered, staring down at the blood spreading across his suit. You were always lucky," he gasped and collapsed onto the wet floor. For a long moment, there was only the sound of rain pounding the roof. Chike knelt beside the body, his face unreadable. He whispered something in Igbo, soft, broken, a prayer, or perhaps a farewell. Then he stood and turned to Efe. "Is it done?" Efe's hands trembled as he looked up. "Yes, it's gone live. Every server in the world's got it now. They can't erase it." Chike nodded once. "Then it's over." But Farouk shook his head. "No, it's not. Look outside." Through the shattered doorway, flashing red and blue lights filled the street, police and federal forces closing in. Chike sighed. "Then it ends the way it must." He walked outside slowly, hands raised. Rain drenched his face, washing away the soot and blood. Dozens of guns pointed at him. "Mr. Nosu," a commanding officer shouted, "you're under arrest for conspiracy, murder, and treason." Chike didn't resist. "If telling the truth is treason, then I'm guilty." They cuffed him, pushing him into a van. As the door slammed shut, he looked back once at Amara, her face, pale eyes full of both grief and faith. She mouthed two words through the rain: "Thank you." The van drove off into the storm. 3 days later, the world erupted. Odera Group collapsed. Global banks froze their assets. Nigerian officials resigned in panic. The president ordered a national investigation. Across Africa, crowds filled the streets chanting, "We remember Zainab, and truth lives in the rain." In a small prison cell on the edge of Lagos, Chike sat alone watching the news on a flickering TV. The reporter's voice echoed softly. Chike Nwosu, whose revelations exposed the largest corruption network in modern Nigerian history, awaits trial. Supporters call for his release, naming him the Stormbringer. He smiled faintly at the irony. From the corner of the cell, a guard approached quietly. "Sir," the man whispered, "a woman left this for you." He handed Chike a folded piece of paper. Inside was a note written in careful handwriting. "The world is awake. Zainab would be proud. Amara." Beneath it was a small photo, 3 of them taken before the chaos. Chike, Zainab, and Amara, smiling over coffee. A brief moment of light before the storm. Chike held it for a long time, then whispered to himself, "Maybe truth costs everything, but at least it buys tomorrow." Outside, thunder rolled once more, gentler this time, as if the city itself exhaled. Lagos, bruised but breathing, waited for dawn. And somewhere in the distance, the rain began again. Soft, endless cleansing. The rain did not stop for 3 days. It swept through the streets of Lagos like a baptism, washing away soot, fear, and the echoes of gunfire. The city was raw, wounded, but alive. Posters of Chike Nwosu, the man they now called the Stormbringer, covered street corners and market stalls. To some, he was a symbol of courage. To others, a cautionary tale of pride. But inside Kirikiri Maximum Prison, where the walls smelled of rust and salt, Chaik felt none of it. He sat cross-legged on his thin mattress, staring at a narrow beam of morning light that crawled across the cell floor. The noise of the city was far away here. The only sound was the rhythmic drip of water from a leaking pipe, steady, endless, like a clock counting the price of truth. He had no lawyer, no trial date. Officially, he was being protected. In reality, he was being buried. Yet even buried things sometimes grow. A guard unlocked the cell door that afternoon. "Visitor," he said gruffly. Chaik looked up. "Who?" The guard shrugged. "Woman. Says her name's Amara." The name struck him like a heartbeat. When she entered, her clothes were simple, gray dress scarf pulled low, but her eyes carried the same quiet fire he remembered. For a moment, neither spoke. "You shouldn't have come," he said finally. "I had to," she replied softly. "You saved this country. You think I'd hide while they pretend you don't exist?" He smiled faintly. "Saving a country doesn't erase the ghosts. Zainab, Tunde, even Gozi." Amara shook her head. "Ghosts don't need erasing. They remind us we're still human." She reached into her bag and placed a folded newspaper on the table. The headline read, "Odera Executive Sentenced. Global Crackdown Continues." Beneath it, a smaller line, "Anonymous Sources Reveal Inside Help from Former NOSU Employee." Chaik frowned. Former employee Amara nodded. "Farouk." He made it out. "He's still fighting from the shadows, leaking what's left." "You lit the match, Chaik. He's keeping the flame." A strange warmth filled his chest. "And you, I'm building something new," she said. "A foundation, the Daughters of Light. Zainab's idea. Will help women who get caught between power and silence. You gave us that chance." He looked at her for a long time. "I don't deserve that kind of credit." "You deserve peace," she said simply. He exhaled slowly. Peace and truth rarely share the same house. Amara leaned forward, her voice a whisper. "Then maybe it's time you built a new one." That night, when the cell lights dimmed, Cheek lay awake, replaying her words. A new house. Could such a thing exist after so much loss? He thought of Zainab, her fierce laugh echoing through gunfire. Of Farouk typing lines of code in the dark. And of Tunde broken on the church floor, his last breath heavy with bitterness. Then he remembered his father's voice, deep and distant. "A man's worth isn't the storm he survives, it's what he plants after it passes." The words settled in him like roots. For the first time since it all began, Cheek slept not with peace, but with purpose. Weeks passed. The world moved. Odera Group crumbled internationally, its leaders dragged into courts from London to Johannesburg. Nigeria trembled under the weight of its own reckoning. Journalists traced stolen funds back to ministers, businessmen, even a bishop. And in the middle of it all, public pressure for Cheek's release grew. Students marched through the streets with placards reading "Freedom for the Truth Teller." Clergy called him a necessary sinner. Still the government hesitated. His story was too dangerous, too alive. Until one day the cell door opened, not with the usual creak, but with purpose. A tall woman in a black suit entered, flanked by two officers. "Mr. Nwosu," she said, "I'm Attorney General Ifeoma Odili. You're being released under a presidential pardon." Chaik stared at her wary. "A pardon for a crime I didn't commit. Call it politics," she said dryly. "The country needs a symbol. The world's watching. And dead martyrs cause more trouble than living men." He gave a small, tired smile. "So I'm useful again." She shrugged. "For now, don't waste it." When he stepped out of the prison gates, the light blinded him. The rain had stopped at last, and the air smelled of wet dust and mango trees. Dozens of reporters waited behind the barricade, shouting his name, cameras flashing. Chaik didn't answer any of them. He just looked up at the sky, the same sky that had thundered on the night everything began, and whispered, "Thank you." Amara was waiting for him by the roadside in an old Toyota. She smiled through tears. "Freedom suits you," she said. He chuckled. "Feels strange, like wearing someone else's clothes." "Then, let's find you new ones," she said. As they drove through Lagos, the city looked different, alive, noisy, hopeful. Banners hung from bridges, "We will not forget." Murals of Zainab's face adorned cracked walls, her smile painted in bright yellow. "She's everywhere," Chaik murmured. Amara nodded. She always wanted to change the world. Now, she's doing it in color. They stopped by a small compound on the outskirts of the city. Children played under a sign that read, "Daughters of Light Foundation." Volunteers handed out food, books, and clothes. Inside the walls were painted white and green, the colors of renewal. A photo of Zainab and a quote hung above the doorway. "Truth is a storm that cleans, not a wind that destroys." Amara led him into a modest office. It's small now, she said, but it's growing. We've got donors from Kenya, Ghana, even South Africa. The women you inspired, they're leading this place. He looked around, eyes glistening. I never thought something good could grow out of all that pain. Pain's just soil, Amara said softly. You decide what to plant in it. For months, Chaik stayed quietly with the foundation. He refused interviews, declined awards. Instead, he spent his days teaching business ethics to young volunteers, helping them understand what no textbook ever would, that success without conscience is failure wearing gold. At night, when the compound quieted, he'd sit on the porch with Amara. Sometimes they spoke of the past, other times they just watched the stars reappear above a city, learning to breathe again. One evening, as they listened to distant laughter from the children's dormitory, Amara said, "Do you ever regret it? The storm, the losses, the war?" He thought for a long time before answering. Regret is a luxury for those who've never had to choose between silence and truth. I didn't start the storm, Amara. I just stopped pretending it wasn't raining. She smiled, tears glimmering. Then Lagos owes you more than it can ever repay. He shook his head. No, Lagos owes itself. Months turned into a year. The country changed slowly, painfully. Corruption didn't vanish, but it began to hide less easily. Young people started voting, demanding transparency, believing again that storms could bring new seasons. One morning, a government courier arrived at the foundation with a sealed envelope. Inside was a formal document, pardon fully granted. All charges expunged. Mr. Chaik Nuvosu is free to travel, work, and serve the public. Attached was a handwritten note from Attorney General Odili. The law bends, but sometimes it bends toward the light. I.O. Chaik folded the letter and looked out the window where sunlight broke clean through the clouds. Maybe the storm is finally done, he murmured. Amara placed a hand on his shoulder. Storms never end, Chaik. They just move to new skies. He smiled. Then let's be ready when it comes. That night, the foundation hosted a memorial for Zainab. Hundreds came, women, workers, journalists, students. They lit candles, sang songs of freedom, and told stories about the woman who had stood up when everyone else bowed down. When it was his turn to speak, Chaik stepped up to the microphone, his voice quiet but steady. Zainab once told me truth doesn't need heroes. It just needs people who refuse to lie. Tonight we honor not her death, but her choice to live honestly, even when it cost everything. He paused, scanning the crowd. Faces glowed in candlelight, faces of a city reborn. May we all find the courage to face our storms, he said, and to plant something beautiful in their wake. The crowd erupted in applause. As candles flickered against the night, Amara slipped her hand into his. Above them, thunder rumbled faintly, not in anger this time, but in memory. The storm had passed. And in its wake, Lagos bloomed.